Let's be brutally honest. Most folks want, or should we say need, to make money from their content creation endeavors. Let me break down the ways I earn a six-figure income as a content creator. And I did it all while writing and speaking and making videos about a topic many would consider boring or mundane. I look at content creation as a game of singles, to use a baseball analogy. While it would be great if your first video hit 1 million views or your first book was a bestseller, but for most of us, that is not likely to happen. But you can create a solid income by piecing together several different revenue streams. And that's what this channel is about. But for this video, we're going to focus on the different potential revenue streams you can create. I've also included a few things I haven't done, but my colleagues have. Of the many items I've included, I'm sure you can find at least 5 to 10 that will work for you. So let's get started. As a content creator, your income can come from either 1, directly from the content you create, or 2, you can set up a membership type organization and derive income that way. Since the first is easier, actually much easier, and is how most people begin their content creation journey, I'll start with that. What's more, you can start with these to test the waters and/or as a side hustle. Keep in mind, most of what we say about direct content creation will also hold true under the membership organization umbrella that we'll discuss in a little bit. But before we get to that, I want to discuss briefly the idea of creating content to get exposure. You'll hear that a lot from organizations that are looking for you to promote them in some way without them paying you. Let me be blunt. There is something to be said about doing this, and it does have some value, but you need to keep it in perspective and not overdo it. One of the first magazines that published a few of my pieces didn't pay me for it, but later they hired me to write for them on a regular basis. So when might you write or speak for free? Here are a few occasions. 1, when you're looking to promote a product. In my case, I was promoting a recently published book. The hope is that a certain percentage of the folks who hear you talk or read your article will then go on to buy the product. Number 2, when you're looking for exposure. In the beginning, when you are first starting your content creation journey, you need all the exposure you can get. And today, you can post on many sites like LinkedIn, YouTube, Meta, X, etc., whenever you want, and you don't need anyone's help. That being said, once you have built a following, you will probably only publish a snippet of content on these sites before pushing the reader or the viewer to a site where you can make a little bit of money. Also, you need to be strategic about making the switch from saying yes to anyone who asks. Number 3, and you may not agree with this last one, but it's what I do. You'll need to make this decision for yourself. If I speak to a not-for-profit or a professional association, I only ask for my expenses to be paid. The exception is if the talk is sponsored. Why would I do this? It's my way of giving back a little bit. And if it is a professional organization, it is a great way to establish credibility and build your list. We can dive into the pros and cons of free versus paid in greater detail in a future video if you'd like. Let me know in the comments below. All right, so how do you make the money directly from your content? Let me point out that not all the options discussed will work for all creators and/or all topics or niches. You need to pick the one that works for your type of content and for you. You probably never thought of doing some of these, so maybe grab a pen or a tablet or your smartphone to start taking notes. Or just listen and maybe try and listen again. Okay, selling content. There are a number of outlets for this, and remember, we're talking about outlets that pay. 1, traditional magazines and some websites will pay content creators for their work. The fees vary widely depending upon the publication, the competition, and the topic, and of course the following that you have. I've been paid as little as $75 when I was first starting out, and then of course much more after I was established. Books. The income generated from books typically comes from royalties from the publisher, or if you've done self-publishing on Amazon Kindle publishing, it will all come from royalties. The latter is quite common, and the royalties tend to be higher than the traditional publisher if you're going to go the Amazon route. If you go to the traditional publishing route, you may also get an advance from the publisher. This is not in addition to the royalties, but it's an upfront payment that has to be paid back out of future earned royalties, assuming there are any. Books not only earn you money, but they also establish you as an expert. For reasons I cannot fathom, when my primary income was coming from writing 2 business newsletters, people kind of looked at me like I was a third-class citizen. But when I mentioned my books, they were always very impressed. But now here's the thing. Most of those books that everyone was so impressed about were put together by piecing together articles from the newspaper into longer content. What can I tell you? 3, videos. If you can produce videos, and it's not that hard to do, related to your area of expertise, you may do this for yourself, or you may do it for clients. They can feature you speaking, and or you may write the content that goes into it. Or it may be an interview with their CEO for their website. The opportunities here are endless if you're interested in this, and I'm sure you can come up with some other permutations. Speaking fees. These can be quite high if you're at the very peak of your profession. Keynote speakers and motivational speakers at big conferences get paid a huge amount to give talks at these big events. But to command those types of fees, you need to have a stellar resume, both as a professional and as a speaker. Some motivational speakers will fall into this category. This is not what we're talking about here. This might be your goal once you've become well established in your career, but that doesn't mean, if you're not, that you can't earn a speaking income. Here are a few that worked for me and continue to work for me, by the way. Speaking on educational webinars run by entities for professional education purposes. In my case, it was accountants who need continuing education credits in order to maintain their professional CPA license. Lawyers have similar requirements, as do many other professions. You can repeat the same topic for different groups many times. Not having to create a brand new slide deck each time you give a talk is a time saver, and ultimately makes you more money. And certain topics can be repeated annually. I've probably given a 1-hour talk on accounts payable best practices at least 50 times throughout my career. So do not underestimate the value of speaking on webinars. It's really easy to do. Some years I've given as many as 100 webinars, sometimes doing even 2 in one afternoon. And while the $500 to $1,000 that I charge for each of these talks may not seem substantial to you, it can add up pretty quickly. Speaking on promotional webinars, this is a little different than the educational webinars, for companies offering products and services to your network or your area. You may promote it to your own list if you wish, or not. I usually choose not to, but depending upon your business model, you might. It depends upon the arrangement you make with the service provider who you're going to do this speaking for. It does not have to be an endorsement of their product. And in fact, right up front, I make it clear that it won't. Now, this might mean that some people won't want you to speak, but you've got to, look at your whole business model, if you will. But again, what you do is up to you. Usually these revolve around a topic related to the product or service. And please note, I charge a much higher fee for this type of talk as compared to the straight educational talk. The third type of speaking fee that you might be able to generate for yourself is speaking at conferences for or with the service provider. This is similar to speaking on a promotional webinar, except it's done in person. Since in-person talks require travel and take up a greater chunk of your time, even if you're not working on the talk or speaking, most will charge a higher price. Your fee should also include your lodging and other travel expenses. And again, the service provider will generally pay for this. Or you can charge a flat fee and then cover your own expenses, but a much higher one. All right, sponsorships. These are very different from advertising, which I'm going to cover in a little bit. This is when one or occasionally two service providers will sponsor a webinar, a podcast, a YouTube video, a blog post, pages on your website, or whatever. They can also sponsor a series or combination, or it can be over different mediums, if you will. For example, podcasters will typically do a brief, "We'd like to thank ABC Company, a leading widget manufacturer, for sponsoring this podcast," at the beginning, and then in the middle they might read basically a 30-second advertisement under the headline of, "And now a brief word from our sponsor." They also get a link in the description or the show notes. This can be quite profitable, especially if you have a niche following that the sponsor is looking to target. And once you have a small following, you're apt to be approached by sponsors who want to sponsor you in return for a referral fee for everyone who buys their product based on your content. This works fairly well on lower price products where people click on a link and make the purchase. Think about an Amazon link, okay? Tracking this on expensive products is next to impossible. This is because typically the sales cycle is long and the person making that final purchase might not be the person who clicked on the trackable link in the beginning, and a number of other reasons. Even if the sponsor is entirely honorable, they may not know the referral came from you. How common is this? Now it's gotten so bad in my industry that whenever a service provider approaches me and they ask, "Can we work together?" I immediately tell them I don't do this type of arrangement, but if they have something else in mind, I'd love to hear what they're proposing. I try to be as polite as possible, but I don't want to waste anybody's time, especially mine, but there's two, maneuvering towards something that is never going to happen. Why am I so blunt? Over half and possibly even 3/4 of the automation suppliers in my field have approached me with this type of offer. Sponsorships might also include banners on websites, on blogs, etc. And these are transactions you will arrange directly with the sponsor. One last word, a piece of advice regarding sponsorships. They can be quite lucrative, but make sure you delineate exactly what the sponsor will get, and how long their information will stay on your website, your video, your blog, or whatever. It should not be forever. This may not seem like a big deal to you when you're first starting out, but later on it could severely limit what you want to do with your content creation business. Advertising. As I said, this is very different than sponsorships in that it is that are arranged by a content creator. Sometimes the lines get a little blurry here, but we're going to talk now about advertising arranged by the media site and put on content they feel is applicable. Let's talk about platform advertising. This payment comes directly from the platform. The most popular one is YouTube. The best and possibly most lucrative of this type of advertising is the YouTube Partner Program. It's available to channels who have over 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time in a given year. YouTube arranges it all. You don't do anything. It's the ads that show up at the beginning, sometimes the middle, and the end of the video. A creator can block certain ads if they wish, but they have to take action and do that through a Google AdSense account. Otherwise, YouTube will place the ads based on its analysis of the viewer and the content. So you and I could watch the same video at the same time, but see different ads. The pay is not great. I earn about a penny per view on my accounts payable process videos, and slightly less on the ones that are related to job search, and slightly more on longer videos. And by longer, I mean 20 to 60 minutes long, if not longer. That's right, a penny a view. And that is for long videos. YouTube Shorts, Instagram, TikTok, and other similar platforms pay only a fraction of that for advertising. That's why YouTube and other creators are urged to not try and rely solely on advertising income from their work. It will also vary by season, country of the viewer, and of course niche. Some niches command a higher fee, but many will command a lower per view ad revenue. And that penny, that's on the high side. And you only get paid if they watch the ad. If they skip the ad, no revenue for the creator. To put it in perspective, a video that gets 1 million views earning a penny per view would net the creator $10,000. Along the same lines, I want to talk about the Amazon Influencer Program. This is a type of platform advertising that is rarely discussed. It is very much also a game of singles. So you don't make much money from one video, but over time, if you create many of these types of video, it can add up. The first step is obviously to sign up for the Amazon Influencer Program. You can get more information about it and or sign up for it at https://program.amazon.com/influence. I'll put a link in the description. Don't even try and write it down. And if you're comfortable of creating this type of video when you purchase something on Amazon, make a video about it and post it on Amazon and any other website that you'd like, including YouTube. If someone buys the product after clicking on your video, you'll make a small amount of money from Amazon. If you are adept at making and editing this type of video quickly, or you want to get good at video editing, this is something that you might consider. Okay, now I want to talk about course creation. This can be a lucrative way to take some of your existing content and turn it into another revenue stream. And I love to do that because, basically you get to use the same thing twice. The content can be written, video, or both. It will depend upon the requirements of the platform. Sites like LinkedIn, Udemy, and many industry-specific sites carry such courses. As I write this, I believe YouTube has said it is planning on adding courses, but so far that hasn't happened. If you have a number of courses, make sure you follow the guidelines provided by the site because they can be quite specific. And you also need sometimes to conform with requirements for licensing and or accreditation oversight. So just like speaking on educational webinars, it's another opportunity that many overlook. Before we get to consulting, if you want to learn more about growing your content creation business, especially about repurposing content across several different mediums, hit the subscribe button. We're here to share everything that I've learned while writing 20 plus business books, creating over 700 videos, giving over 1,000 talks, both live and online, and writing over 10,000 articles and blog posts. Consulting. Once you've become an industry expert, you're likely to be approached by companies looking to hire you for consulting purposes. They may have a need for a special project, or they may want you to come in and review their operations and make process improvement suggestions. The first time I was approached about this type of work, luckily, I wasn't there to take the call. My husband was. And when he explained what they wanted, I said, well, didn't you tell them I don't do this type of work? And he responded, what are you talking about? You can do it and it pays really well. And he was right. I could do it and it did pay really well. If you're willing, include on your LinkedIn profile that you offer consulting service. Now, here's the thing. It may pay well, but it can eat up a huge chunk of time because you not only need to get paid for the time that you spend with the client reviewing their operations, but you also need to be paid for the time you spend preparing the report that you're going to give them. Do not underestimate the time that it will take. For me, and it may be different for you, and I'm sure most people can do this faster than I can, I spend at least double the amount of time that I spend at the client writing up that final report. So if I spend a day there, it'll take me 2 days to get that report together. I give them a report and then offer to do a follow-up Zoom call with them after they've reviewed my report. This is to answer any questions they may have. Some want this, others don't. One company even has come back and make a presentation to their offices and a few other impacted individuals. There was an extra charge for that. Writing policy and procedures manuals for clients. When this is a full-time job, the position is sometimes called technical writer. It's a form of consulting. You need to sit with the client's staff, document what they're doing, and then put it in an easily accessible and readable document. In my case, it was always a nightmare to get the staff to take the time out of their busy day to sit down and do this with me. Some folks are quite good at it. I absolutely hate doing this type of thing. And after doing it a handful of times, I took it off my plate. I no longer do it. not because it doesn't pay well, but because I don't like running after people, trying to get them to sit down and talk to me, or even harder, get them to review what I've written. But some folks really do like doing this, and it's definitely a needed skill. Okay, let's talk about ghostwriting. If you are knowledgeable about your topic, some service providers and executives may want you to pen an article that will appear under their name. No one will know you wrote this. When you do this, you can be a little looser with your requirements as to what will go into the article and what won't. I did a piece for a company at one point when I was first starting out, and the CEO insisted that I repeat the name of the company in almost every sentence. His name was going on it, mine wasn't. And he also wanted the name of the company bolded. Honestly, it looked ridiculous. I told him I'd revise it, but this is what he wanted, and so this is what I gave him. And when he submitted the article for publication, the magazine wouldn't publish it. No big surprise there. He said he understood, but that was what he wanted. He got his article, I got paid, and the article never got published. I do have to give him some credit, though, because he didn't hold it against me. Just be sure when you're doing something like that, if you're willing to do it, don't put your name on it. Articles for service providers' websites. Savvy companies today know that content marketing is the name of the game, and many are continually looking for good content for their websites, and you can produce that. I've done this for quite a few companies. Always retain the copyright and try and get them to include your name and a brief bio at the end of the article. The benefit of that is others will read the article and be able to reach out. They know who wrote it. They'll be able to reach out to you if they are looking to hire you. Advertorials are another version of what we've been discussing. Your name never goes on these. You've probably seen them in magazines if you're looking closely enough. At the top of what looks like a regular article, in small print, will be the word advertorial or advertisement. These are basically advertisements masquerading as legitimate content. Unless the piece is truly educational and does not promote a product, don't put your name on these. Reviews. I'm not talking about book reviews, restaurant reviews, movie reviews, although if you can get that work, I imagine it would be a lot of fun. In this case, I'm talking about reviewing several very similar products and making recommendations. Typically, you might do this for an association or an industry trade group, or even under the umbrella of a membership organization, which we're going to discuss in a little bit. Let me give you an example that I hope everyone listening will understand. A sample might be reviewing the following, identifying the pros and cons of each and comparing their features. The technology in this case might be ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, and Google Gemini. In some cases, I've even seen comprehensive reviews of industry-specific software sold as a special report. In other cases, I've seen reviews sponsored by a company and given away by that company. To be honest, as an end user, I'm always a little suspicious when the sponsor of this report ends up being the top-rated product. Also, sometimes the report creator charges the subjects being reviewed to be included in the report. And again, as an end user, that makes me a little suspicious. But for content creators, it could be a very lucrative assignment. Other related products. Today, anyone with a computer and the smallest amount of design savvy can create products digitally and sell them without ever having to lift a hand to manufacture the product or fulfill it. Let me give you a few examples, and then you can let your creativity take over. Companies like Amazon, Cafe Press, Printify, to name a few, will handle the hard work. You just have to handle the creative side. Here are some examples. Calendars. You could create a calendar with pictures related to your topic or your niche. If you were a chef, you might include pictures of some of your dishes, possibly a recipe each month. A gardener might include pictures of plants and talk about the history and art. A gardener might include pictures of the plants that they're talking about. An art history guru might include famous pictures. If you wanted to make a daybook type calendar, you might include a daily or monthly tip. You could create a calendar with important dates related to the topic. An accountant might include important tax filing dates. A gardener might include important planting dates, etc. Blank journals. Artists might create beautiful covers to put on a blank journal and sell on Amazon. Other products. Along the same lines, you can create t-shirts, coffee mugs, etc. with the appropriate designs on them. But don't forget, while the supplier is handling the back end for you, producing and mailing the product, you will get more sales if you actively promote the product, maybe through your email list or with a short video, or just mention them in some of your videos. For the most part, unless you promote these products, no one will know they exist, and you won't make any money. Part-time work with a not-for-profit and/or industry association. This is often a match made in heaven. They need somebody with your knowledge and expertise, and you could use a little regular recurring income. I've worked both as the editor and the education director for a small industry association. Both positions were very much part-time, and we were both clear on what we would be responsible for, mainly what I would be responsible for. Be extremely careful about potential conflicts of interest and bend over backwards not to take advantage. This will skyrocket your credibility within your network. You can also set up a membership organization. Now this, to be fair, is a little bit more work, but it also can generate quite a bit of money. So setting up and running a membership organization. If you're lucky, you may have a professional association in your specialty, but this doesn't mean there's not room for you. Sometimes professional associations see educational membership organizations as competitors, but more often than not, they find a way to work together for the benefit of both. I've seen it go both ways, frankly, and when they work together, everyone wins. It's a win-win situation. These professional associations are almost always not-for-profits to help members of the profession in question stay current on the latest advancements in their field, as well as find new opportunities should the members want or need one. Some don't do much in the job search category, others do quite a bit. The associations typically will offer many of the services we've discussed so far with some tweaks. For example, the association may have a bookstore, but only carry books published by others. Most run webinars and have an annual conference. Some have seminars. Most also have monthly, quarterly publication along with daily and weekly e-zines. So as you can see, there's a lot of variation. The annual membership fee typically includes a monthly magazine, which now might be digital, by the way, and a few other goodies like access to the membership list. In addition, these organizations usually offer many fee-based services that will include, for example, the annual conference, a books, seminars, webinars, etc. But you don't have to be a not-for-profit or a professional organization to create a membership organization. If you have good information relevant to the profession, there is a place for you, especially if you have a backlog of educational content to get you started. You can charge an annual membership or subscription fee. This fee can include newsletters, webinars, courses, etc. You can also sell the products on a standalone basis. If you run an annual conference, which many do, the ticket can be sold at a discounted price to those who are met with members. In professional associations, the annual conference is often the big money maker for the year, and in some cases, it will account for a lion's share of their annual revenue. As you might imagine, this created a huge problem when COVID hit, but I digress. Back to the critical issue at hand. Membership organizations typically get their revenue from two sources. The members pay their dues for services such as webinars, conferences, and corporate sponsors. The corporate sponsors are typically service providers who have a service or product to sell to the membership. They typically will pay a large sum of money to have access to their membership, and they do this through sponsorships, exhibiting at conferences, etc. If you've ever attended an industry conference with an exhibit hall, you know what I'm talking about. Typically, the entire profit for the event comes out of that exhibit hall. Now, let me be clear. You do not have to run a big conference to have a membership organization. I didn't, and I'm definitely not alone. In the YouTube education space, there are a number of fine membership organizations, including but not limited to vidIQ and Think Media. But there are also many fine educators in this space. Periodically, I debate the pros and cons of whether or not to rely on membership dues or sponsorships as the primary source of revenue with my colleague Jamie Radford, who is the founder of the AP Association in the UK. We each took different routes in the same industry. If you think you'd like to hear us go over the pros and cons of each, let me know in the comments and I'll invite him for a future episode. He's always a lot of fun in addition to being very insightful. I started with a newsletter and almost immediately began offering webinars. After a short period of time, I came up with the idea of a web pass. That is a flat fee for all our twice a month webinars. Initially, this product was dead in the water. I can't tell you how dead. No one was interested. And when I say no one, I mean we did not sell one single web pass. And trust me, it was not for lack of trying on my part. Then one day, out of the blue, an order came in. This was quite interesting since we'd stopped promoting it and our store was one of those first online clunky models. So the purchaser really had to dig to find it, but thankfully she did. The next time we promoted it, another order came in and the rest is history. It became our second most successful product and it's still going. Eventually, it was offered as part of our Platinum membership along with the monthly newsletter and a database of back articles. This has become our most popular offering. Lesson learned. Don't take the products out of your store as long as you have the space. And in the digital world, the space is almost endless. Under this umbrella, you can do sponsored webinars, white papers, etc. You can also offer reprints of articles if any of the service providers in your industry are interested in having a handout to give out at a conference. These can also be customized as you see fit if you're willing. If appropriate, and it won't be for many, sample boxes are another possibility. Obviously, the membership models offers many permutations, which we'll discuss in a later video. Are you excited about your journey to become a content creator? There's always something new to learn. Click on the link that has appeared on your YouTube screen and is in the description to hear our latest insights that you need to take your content creation game to the next level. Good luck.